Thank you for your staying with us. Following are some Asia headlines. Survivors of Australian bushfire get $235 million in country's biggest class action.
China says against foreign countries receiving Dalai Lama.
Survivors of Australian bushfire get $235 million in country's biggest class action. Survivors of one of Australia's deadliest wildfires won compensation of a $235 million in pre-trial settlement on Friday, February the 6th, bringing to a close the country's costliest series of class action lawsuits. Australia's worst natural disaster saw 173 people killed and thousands of homes destroyed when a series of fires ripped through the rural Victoria state on February 7, 2009. Last year, a court-ordered energy firm, AusNet Services maintenance contractor Utility Services Corp. And the state to pay $387 million for faulty infrastructure alleged to have caused one of the so-called Black Saturday fires, which killed 119 people, the country's biggest class action payment. On Friday, the same defendants agreed to pay another $235 million for their role in another blaze, Murrayville fire, which killed 40 people and destroyed 500 homes, taking the total compensation to nearly $627 million. Lessons have been learnt and hopefully never been forgotten so that such devastating loss of life can be avoided in the future. Thank you, said Dr. Catherine Rowe, the lead plaintiff whose husband died in the fires. In a settlement, AusNet said it tried to defend each of the classes in a manner to avoid adding to the group members' pain while seeking to demonstrate that AusNet Services managed its network completely and efficiently. The company maintained that no negligence on its part caused or contributed to any of the fires. It said its insurance would cover the payout. AusNet agreed to pay a $260.9 million, while the Victoria State parties agreed to pay a $29.1 million, and Utility Services Corp. Agreed to pay a $10 million. The settlement was subject to court approval, AusNet has added.
Malaysia and Indonesia to form committee to deal with border and maritime issues. Indonesian President Joko Widodo and Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak agreed during a bilateral meeting to February 6 to hasten negotiations on several unresolved issues regarding the border, labor, trade, and investment. On the issue of maritime border disputes, the Indonesian president said at a news conference on Friday following the meeting, the two neighboring countries had agreed on the need to find a formula considered acceptable by both governments. We both agreed to form a technical committee and appoint a special envoy to handle issues such border and maritime which need to be solved, Widodo told reporters. Widodo, who was elected president in October last year, has unshared in a crackdown on illegal fishing in Indonesia, which is claimed to have lost billions of dollars as a result of the activity in its waters. The crackdown has seen Indonesia detain 200 Malaysians found fishing illegally in its waters last November and sink a Malaysian vessel on January 8th. His more assertive stance on the maritime sector was expected to spark tension in the region, but the meeting on Friday with Najib showed the two nations were able to find middle ground.
Modi faces possible Delhi poll defeat, clouding growth prospects. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is facing his first state election defeat since taking charge last year, opinion polls have shown, a result that would dent his chances of consolidating power needed to speed up an economic recovery. In India's capital, Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party is locked in a tight race with Aam Aadmi or Common Man Party, while the BJP is riding high on its historic success in last year's general elections. The AAP, which formed a government in December 2013, only stepped down from power after 49 days, is urging voters to give it another chance. Party leader Arvind Kejriwal, a mild-mannered former tax official, resigned as chief minister of Delhi a year ago, frustrated by obstacles put in the way of an anti-corruption bill. One of his first actions in office was to encourage citizens to use cell phones to record government workers who demand bribes, then call a hotline to report them. He also eschewed guards, a motorcade, and a luxurious government bungalow, the symbols of privilege enjoyed by judges, senior civil servants, and politicians in Delhi. As Delhi prepares to head to the polls on Saturday, Kejriwal asked voters to give him another chance in office. When I was in power, I slashed electricity rates. We promised a free supply of water, and within 5 days of the formation of the government, the water supply was made free. We promised that we would reduce the price of items. When I became chief minister, CNG in Delhi was 50 rupees. We reduced it to 35 rupees within a month, he told supporters. In his first weeks in office, he slashed power and water prices, banned foreign supermarkets from setting in the capital, and led an unruly protest against the police. Some voters said they were impressed with the party's record.
Chinese consortium building Nicaragua Canal returns huge haul of pre-Columbian artifacts found during project. A Chinese consortium building the Nicaragua Canal returned a huge cache of some 15,000 pre-Columbian artifacts, including pots, stone tools, such as axes and mattocks, to Nicaragua on Wednesday, February 4th. They were found during groundwork carried out for the 50 billion Chinese-led canal that would bisect the poor Central American nation. Hong Kong-based developer HK, Nicaragua Canal Development Investment Company, and the company carrying out environmental impact studies, global consulting firm Environmental Services Manager EMR, handed over the works to Nicaragua's Culture Ministry. These pre-Columbian pieces will be handed over to the government of Nicaragua and will be protected and received by its Culture Department. This shows HK&D takes great responsibility in the protection of history and cultural patrimony of Nicaragua, said Bernard Lee, Deputy Manager of the Public Relations Department at HK&D Group, who began working in late December on the 172-mile waterway, which it says will be operational by 2020. 29 mainly Nicaraguan archaeologists worked to recover the pieces on 155,000 hectares on land. The archaeologists covered some 6,000 kilometers of ground from east to west along the path which will be occupied by Nicaragua's interoceanic Grand Canal. These objects were found on the surface of the land with no archaeological excavations carried out, EMR said.
China, Thailand step up military ties, intelligence sharing. China's defense minister, Chang Wen-kuang, met his Thai counterpart on Friday as the two countries looked to increase military cooperation and intelligence sharing over the next 5 years to counter transnational crime. The agreement for increased cooperation comes during a 2-day visit by Chang to Bangkok, an ongoing bid by Thailand's military government to cultivate China's support amid Western unease over delayed return to democracy following a coup in May last year. Thailand's army took control in May, saying it needed to restore order after months of unrest, including street protests in Bangkok that killed nearly 30 people. The United States, a longtime ally of Thailand, expressed dismay at the coup and froze $4.7 million of security-related assistance and canceled some security cooperation. In contrast, the Thai government has claimed support from regional superpower China. China Premier Li Keqiang was the first high-profile foreign leader to visit Thailand since the coup was when he attended a regional conference in December. Thai Defense Minister General Prawit Wongsuwan said the two countries agreed to increase joint military exercises but did not give further details. China, he added, said it would not intervene in Thailand's politics. The comments were in marked contrast to Thailand's accusation last month that the U.S. was meddling in its political affairs, saying many of Thais had been hurt by remarks of a visiting U.S. envoy who criticized actions by the ruling military junta. Nevertheless, the U.S. will hold its annual Cobra Gold joint military exercise with Thailand next week, limiting its scope to humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. China's role in the training exercise will not differ from past years. Colonial Letpano Pinprom, chief of Combined Information at Cobra Gold Exercise Head Office, had told Reuters.
China speaks against foreign countries receiving Dalai Lama. China's foreign ministry said on Friday it opposed foreign countries receiving the Dalai Lama after U.S. President Barack Obama warmly acknowledged the Buddhist religious leader, but did not meet him directly at a prayer event in Washington. The Dalai Lama is a political exile who has long waved the flag of religion to engage in anti-China separatist activities. We oppose any country allowing the Dalai Lama to visit, and we are against any country using the Tibet issue to interfere in China's domestic affairs. The Dalai Lama travels around to seek foreign support for his political agenda. His scheme will not succeed. The ministry spokesman, Hong Lei, made the remarks in a daily briefing in Beijing. Hong stopped short of directly condemning Obama, likely because there was no face-to-face meeting. Obama and the Dalai Lama were at an annual prayer breakfast in Washington on Thursday, February 5th, where Obama spoke about the importance of religious freedom. Obama, who greeted the Buddhist monk with a bow-like gesture, called him a good friend and a powerful example of what it means to practice compassion, and who inspires us to speak up for the freedom and dignity of all human beings. Last February, Obama held low-key talks in Washington with the Nobel Peace Laureate, whom China considers a wolf in sheep's clothing. The talks greatly angered Beijing, which had warned they would damage ties.
And we will be back right after the commercial, so please stay tuned with us.